picture this. The year is 1954.
Okay, I'm there.
And there's this 25-year-old kid from a working-class steel mill town. He has a perfectly sensible, reliable job selling paint.
Right. A solid gig back then.
Yeah. But out of nowhere, he just decides to quit. He abandons that steady paycheck to chase a dream in a sport that, I mean, at the time was famously dominated by the wealthy elite.
Oh, absolutely. Played entirely behind the closed gates of private country clubs.
Exactly. So fast forward a few decades, and that same paint salesman is sitting atop an $875 million empire.
It's crazy to even think about.
It is. He has an international airport bearing his name. And get this, perhaps most strangely of all, he becomes a globally famous beverage.
It's the kind of biographical arc that almost sounds completely fictional when you lay it out like that.
It really does. And that is the mission of our deep dive today. We're exploring the life, the legacy, and the massive cultural footprint of Arnold Palmer.
Known to millions simply as the King.
The King, exactly. We're digging into a comprehensive biographical source document to map out the turning points of a career that spanned, well, 6 decades.
Which is just a massive amount of time to stay relevant.
Right. And to you listening, whether you are a diehard golf fanatic who watches every single tournament, or you're just someone who occasionally orders an iced tea mixed with lemonade at a diner.
Which is delicious, by the way.
Understanding Arnold Palmer is essentially the key to understanding the birth of modern sports marketing.
I mean, we're talking about a man who didn't just participate in a sport. He fundamentally rewired the entire ecosystem surrounding it, because before him, athletes were essentially just people who played games.
Yeah.
But after him, athletes became these massive corporate conglomerates.
So we have to look at the environment that forged him. We start in Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Ah, the steel town.
Right? 1929, the Steel Town kid. His father, Milford Jerome Palmer, we just called him Deacon, he was the head professional and the greenskeeper at the Latrobe Country Club.
And that dual title is critical to understanding Palmer's psychology, actually.
How so?
Well, Deacon had suffered from polio at a young age, leaving him with a limp. So he worked incredible, grueling hours doing intense manual labor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And because of his father's job, young Arnold had backstage access to this very insulated world, but he wasn't really a part of it.
He was on the outside looking in.
Exactly. He was the son of the hired help, the guy digging the ditches and mowing the grass so the wealthy elite could enjoy their weekends. He literally learned the game from the dirt up.
That's a great way to put it. And he actually gets a golf scholarship to Wake Forest College, but the path gets derailed pretty early on.
Yeah, it's a tragic pivot.
His close friend and roommate, Bud Worsham, is tragically killed in a car accident, and Palmer just leaves college because of the grief.
Which is completely understandable.
Yeah, so he enlists in the U.S. Coast Guard and serves for 3 years from 1951 to 1954. But what's interesting is that even in the military, he just couldn't stop thinking about the game.
Oh, he was obsessed.
While stationed at the Coast Guard Training Center in Cape May, New Jersey, he actually builds a 9-hole course just to keep practicing.
I mean, it shows a borderline obsessive dedication.
Yeah.
The military definitely provided a reset for him, but golf was clearly still the ultimate objective.
Which brings us to the major turning point, the 1954 U.S. Amateur in Detroit.
The big moment.
He wins it. Reporters are watching this young, muscular guy just crushing golf balls on the practice tee. And they ask another golfer, Gene Littler, who it is.
And Littler gives this legendary quote.
Yes. He says, "That's Arnold Palmer. He's going to be a great player someday. When he hits the ball, the earth shakes."
Think about the imagery there. The earth shakes. Up until that point, the ideal golf swing, the one championed by the country club set, was smooth, delicate and elegant.
Very refined.
Exactly. But Palmer's swing was violent. Like a working man's swing. He just slashed at the ball.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because quitting a stable paint sales job in 1954 to play a country club sport sounds to me like quitting a cushy corporate job today to become a professional esports player. Was it really as insanely risky as it sounds?
I would argue it was actually much riskier.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, esports players today, even if they aren't winning major tournaments, often have like Twitch subscriptions, ad revenue, or minor sponsorships to fall back on.
That's true. There's a whole infrastructure.
Right. But in 1954, professional golf had virtually no safety net. If you drove across the country for a tournament and missed the cut, you didn't just miss out on a trophy.
You were broke.
Exactly. You didn't have the prize money to put gas in your car to drive to the next state. You literally had to win to eat.
That is intense.
Mm-hmm.
But he takes the leap anyway. He goes to a tournament in Shawneon, Delaware, meets a woman named Winnie Walzer.
Who he marries and stays with for 45 years, by the way.
Yes. And in November of 1954, he officially announces he's turning pro. And this is where we need to talk about the cultural shift. Our source material notes that Palmer shifted golf from a wealthy, elite pastime to a populous sport played on public courses.
He really did.
But how did one guy actually do that?
Well, it comes down to a jarring visual contrast. Picture the 1950s elite country club members.
Okay. Pristine slacks.
Right. Pristine slacks, perfectly stilled demeanor, very genteel. And then insert Arnold Palmer. He looked like a middle linebacker. He hitched up his pants before a shot. He smoked cigarettes on the course. He sweat through his shirts, and he grimaced when he missed.
He showed actual emotion.
Exactly. The working and middle classes suddenly rallied behind him because he didn't just invite them to watch golf. He actively represented blue-collar labor out there on the manicured greens of the 1%.
And the timing of this arrival couldn't have been more consequential. I mean, winning amateur tournaments wasn't going to pay the bill, so he had to make a splash quickly.
And he did.
In his 1955 rookie season, he wins the Canadian Open. The prize money was $2,400.
A decent chunk of change back then.
For sure. And by 1958, he wins the Masters, kicking off an era where he claimed 7 major titles by 1964. He becomes part of the Big Three with Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player.
Legends.
But here's the thing. Palmer turns pro at the exact historical moment. Televisions are entering American living rooms en masse.
The perfect storm.
So I have to ask, was Palmer genuinely a revolutionary talent? Or was he just a charismatic guy who got incredibly lucky that TV cameras started rolling right when he showed up?
What's fascinating here is that the historical consensus is that he actively steered the ship. It wasn't just luck.
Well,
He didn't just happen to be on TV. He weaponized his playing style for the medium. You have to understand the mechanics of early television broadcasting.
right, because early TV was, well, terrible quality.
Exactly. The cameras had low frame rates, and the pictures were incredibly grainy. If a golfer had a smooth, subtle, beautiful swing, it essentially vanished on a 1950s television set.
It just looked boring.
Right. But Palmer's violent, slashing swing, his physical reactions to every shot, that registered perfectly on grainy black and white screens.
That makes total sense.
He provided the drama that the technical limitations of early television demanded. He made the audience feel the physical exertion of the sport.
Which brings us to the actual business of being Arnold Palmer. In 1960, he signs with a pioneering sports agent named Mark McCormack.
He was his very first client.
Right. And McCormack identifies 5 highly marketable traits in Palmer: handsomeness, a modest background, a risk-taking playing style, thrilling TV finishes, and extreme affability.
All the right ingredients.
But what did McCormack actually do with those traits? I mean, athletes had endorsed things before, right?
They had, but usually an athlete would just take a flat fee of like a few $100s to hold a box of soap in a magazine ad.
Just a one-off gig.
Exactly. But McCormack and Palmer changed the fundamental mechanics of sports marketing. They demanded equity. Yeah, they pioneered licensing agreements. They didn't just want Palmer to endorse a product. They wanted him to be a partner in the company producing it. They built a brand identity around those 5 treats, which is what birthed Arnie's Army.
Right. The galleries would just swarm him on the course. People who had never picked up a club in their life were marching around following him.
It was unprecedented.
And the financial result was huge. In 1967, Palmer became the first man to reach $1 million in career earnings on the PGA Tour.
A huge milestone.
But even with that money coming in and absolute dominance in America, Palmer and McCormack realized a localized brand wasn't enough.
No, they wanted more.
To achieve true generational legacy, they needed global validation.
Which meant tackling the British Open, or as it's officially known over there, the Open Championship.
Context here is super vital. Today, every top player goes to the British Open. But in the late 1950s and 1960s, most American pros just ignored it.
Completely bypassed it.
The travel across the Atlantic was exhausting, the prize money was terrible, and the courses were what's called links style.
Right.
For those listening who aren't golfers, what makes a link style course such a deterrent?
Well, it requires a completely different physics of play, unlike American target-style courses, which are heavily watered so the ball stops right where it lands.
Like playing darts?
Exactly. But links courses are built on hard, sandy, coastal soil. The wind is often horizontal and just brutal.
Sounds miserable.
It can be. You can't just fly the ball through the air. You have to play along the ground, battling unpredictable bounces off these massive mounds and deep hidden bunkers.
Okay, so it's like a champion indoor tennis player voluntarily entering the French Open to play on red clay. The fundamental mechanics of the game, the speed of the surface, the weather, it all completely changes and negates their usual advantages.
That's a perfect way to look at it. Most American pros just didn't want to risk their pride or deal with the hassle for such a small paycheck.
But Palmer wasn't driven just by money. He was chasing history.
He had a mission.
He wanted to emulate his idol, Ben Hogan, who had achieved the mythical feat of winning the Masters, the U.S. Open, and the British Open, all in a single year back in 1953.
The ultimate flex.
Exactly. So in 1960, Palmer travels to Scotland. He's already won the Masters and the U.S. Open that year. He plays what he later called the 4 best rounds of his life, shooting 70, 71, 70, and 68.
Incredible numbers for those conditions.
The British press is calling him the greatest golfer ever, and then he loses by a single shot to Kel Nagle.
Man, that's rough. For a lot of highly competitive people, flying thousands of miles to play the best golf of your life and still losing by 1 stroke, that would be the end of the experiment.
Yeah, probably quit.
Right. They'd blame the win, collect their appearance fee, and never come back.
But he returns the very next year, 1961, and wins it. And he comes back in 1962 and wins it again.
Total redemption.
And by doing that, he completely changed the perception of the tournament for every other American golfer.
The European Tour chief executive actually later stated that Palmer's participation was the ultimate catalyst to internationalize golf.
Oh, really?
Yeah. By showing up and winning, he proved to the American public and his fellow professionals that the British Open was a mandatory stop on the path to greatness.
He legitimized it.
He single-handedly forced the integration of American and European golf, establishing the foundation for the global circuit we see today.
So he essentially takes over the globe. But even with international fame, golf tournament purses in the 1960s still weren't enough to build true generational wealth.
Not even close.
Palmer and McCormack had to invent a completely new playbook, turning an athlete into a corporate conglomerate. Palmer's fame outgrows the golf course, and he builds an empire that is massive, eclectic, and honestly full of contradictions.
It really is.
We're talking about an estate ultimately valued at $875 million.
The sheer scope of what he put his name on is wild.
Let's start with the poetry of it. Remember Latrobe Country Club, where his dad was the greenskeeper and he wasn't allowed to play as a kid?
Oh, I love this part.
Palmer eventually just buys the whole club.
The ultimate I made it move.
Right. From there, he designs over 300 golf courses across 5 continents, including negotiating the deal to build the very first golf course in the People's Republic of China.
Unbelievable.
He helps found the Golf Channel. He owns auto dealerships, including a Cadillac Buick store right in his hometown.
And we have to talk about aviation, which became a massive part of his brand identity.
It's a great story because he actually started out with a severe fear of flying.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And to get over it, he decides to face it head on and pursue his pilot certificate. He ends up logging nearly 20,000 hours in the cockpit over 55 years.
That is dedication.
He flew his own private jets until he was 81 years old. He once said that next to marrying his wife Winnie and deciding to turn pro, learning to fly was the smartest decision he ever made. They even renamed his hometown airport the Arnold Palmer Regional Airport.
And of course, there is the beverage.
It's a famous drink.
The mass-produced Arnold Palmer, half iced tea, half lemonade. They began mass-producing it under his brand in 2001, and it cemented his name in the minds of millions of consumers who wouldn't know a pitching wedge from a putter.
But managing a personal brand over half a century is complicated, and the source material doesn't shy away from the contradictions of his life.
Right, because he was human.
Exactly. For instance, his image was largely built on being this healthy, athletic icon. But he was an avid smoker during his playing career. He even did television commercials endorsing cigarettes.
Which was pretty common back then, but still.
True. Yet later in life, he did a complete 180-degree turn. He actively urged the public to quit smoking and talked openly about how it damages every organ in the body.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights that he wasn't a static character. His views evolved as the science and the culture evolved.
And the source material dives into his politics, too. Now, just to impartially record the biographical facts here, he was a registered Republican. He donated to figures like George W. Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Pat Toomey.
He was very connected.
He was personal friends with President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who even painted a portrait for Palmer's birthday. The Republican Party repeatedly asked him to run for political office, which he always declined.
Smart move, probably.
Yeah. However, toward the end of his life, his daughter Peggy revealed that despite knowing Donald Trump, who had organized several golf tournaments, Palmer showed disgust toward him during the 2016 campaign and made unflattering comments.
Interesting.
We aren't endorsing any specific views here, obviously, but it paints a picture of a man who is deeply engaged with the world, not just secluded in some country club bubble.
That engagement with the real world is also what led to some major corporate turbulence. Because, when you were a walking brand, the machinery sometimes breaks down.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The lawsuit.
Yes.
Arnold Palmer and Mark McCormack essentially invented modern sports licensing and memorabilia. But in 1997, Palmer and Tiger Woods initiated a civil case against a company called Gotta Have It Golf.
Right.
They sue to stop the unauthorized sale of their images and alleged signatures. But the company countersues them for breach of contract. And a Florida jury actually rules against Palmer and Woods.
Which is wild.
How does the pioneer of licensing lose a massive case regarding his own image?
It's the ultimate corporate irony, and it really comes down to the mechanics of the contracts. Palmer and Woods argued their brands are being exploited,
Right.
but the countersuit revealed that representatives for Palmer and Woods had actually failed to fulfill their end of a previously agreed-upon autograph deal.
So they dropped the ball.
They essentially left the memorabilia company hanging. So the jury looked at the evidence, rejected Palmer's claims of unauthorized use, and agreed that the athlete's own corporate representatives had breached the contract.
Wow.
The jury awarded Gotta Have It Golf over $668,000 in damages.
It's fascinating. It proves that Palmer wasn't just this flawless mascot living in a pristine bubble. He operated in a ruthless corporate world. He made mistakes. He lost lawsuits.
He was a businessman.
Right. But he also channeled a massive amount of that corporate wealth into philanthropy.
The scale of his giving is just immense. He created the earningsHis Army Charitable Foundation,
Which did incredible work.
Yeah, that led directly to the Winnie Palmer Hospital for Women and Babies, the Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children, and numerous other health centers.
When Palmer passed away on September 25, 2016 at the age of 87, while awaiting heart surgery, the outpouring of grief across the sports world reflected all of that impact.
It was a huge moment for the sports world.
Less than a week later, the Ryder Cup was played in Minnesota. Both Team USA and Team Europe paid incredible tributes. There was a moment of silence. The players wore special logos.
I remember that.
They took his actual golf bag from the 1975 Ryder Cup when he was captain and placed it on the first tee.
Goosebumps.
And when the American team won, at the request of Palmer's daughter, they brought the Ryder Cup trophy straight to his memorial service. Tiger Woods even noted publicly that his own children were born at the Winnie Palmer Hospital, proving that the philanthropic work would long outlast the golf records.
And when he died, his estate was valued at that $875 million mark we mentioned.
A staggering amount.
He divided it among his two daughters, his second wife, Kathleen, his charity, earningsHis Army, and he even left $25,000 each to 8 of his longtime employees.
We started this deep dive talking about a paint salesman from a steel town. And through sheer force of will, an incredibly timely, violent golf swing, and visionary media savvy, he forced a niche game into the American mainstream.
He fundamentally changed the relationship between athletes, television, and corporate America.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. When someone becomes as massively globally successful as Arnold Palmer, their name eventually detaches from their actual humanity.
It just becomes an entity.
Exactly. Right now, there are millions of people walking into convenience stores who only know Arnold Palmer as a refreshing beverage. They have no idea about the U.S. Amateur or the Coast Guard or the British Open.
Yes, true.
So what does this all mean? Is it the ultimate sign of immortality when your name outlives your actual achievements and just becomes a permanent part of the everyday lexicon? Or is it a slight tragedy that the man who made the earth shake when he swung a club is now best known as a drink?
It's the ultimate paradox of achieving absolute permanent fame.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring the hidden histories behind the everyday names, and we will catch you next time.